Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to another video on Sincerely Anya. So today we're going to talk about just my entire law school journey and hopefully answer any questions that you may have about my personal journey or any questions that you may have surrounding your own journey, or maybe you're helping someone else through theirs. So with that being said, let's get into it. So, first topic of the day, the Lsat. Why the Lsat? Why are we talking about it? What even is it? And if you've already gone through this and you've already taken the Lsat and everything, and this is not for you and you want to just fast forward a little bit later on in the video where I talk about some other topics, then go ahead. And also, disclaimer for everyone looking for information about the Lsat, this is not going to be a complete rundown of the Lsat and my entire journey or anything. And then if you want a full video just on the Lsat later on, then I'll be happy to do that. So, studying for the... I've got my handy dandy materials here today. So, I tried doing an Lsat prep course. And all of this in this video is going to be what's unique to me and what worked for me, and maybe it'll work for you too, but I'm not going to be giving you like, you should definitely do this, although there are certain things that I do think that you should definitely do. I tried to take an Lsat prep course. The result of that, 0. I literally learned nothing. In a 6-week course, I learned absolutely nothing about the Lsat, besides the fact that it was a test that I needed to take to get into law school, and I already knew that. So, instead, I decided to go about my own studying and training journey, and I ended up with this. This is the Bible for Lsat studying. The Lsat Trainer by Mike Kim. It's basically made for people who are self-studying and who are just trying to learn the Lsat on their own. It's like 400 pages, but it does come with an online study guide that and schedule so that you can stay on track. Like, I had a whole calendar set out of like, this day we're doing this lesson and that lesson, and we're doing practice exams on that day, and their online study guide will help you with that. And they also have extra drills and stuff in the book and outside the book that you can do. Now, as a complement to this, what you're gonna want to get is one of these, if not a few of them. I actually have 2 from when I was studying. So this one is one of the older ones. The older Lsats are a lot easier than the newer Lsats because the test gets harder and harder as the years progress. That's not a myth, that is true. And you will notice that when you're studying from these old tests. These are actual old tests created by Lsat and put into a book for you for your convenience to do practice exams. And there's about 9 tests in each book. This is a more recent one. I think this is the most recent one. They're supposed to be coming out with a new one soon, so cop that because that would be the most relevant one. So with those, you want to do a practice exam. I did practice exams. At first, I did them like, I took about 6 months to study, and at first I did practice exams like once a month for like 2 months. So I did a diagnostic exam just to see where I was at in terms of my understanding of the questions and everything. I took a diagnostic, did not do well on my diagnostic, which is okay because it's a diagnostic. It just tells you, where you're at and how much further you have to go to study. I got a 143 on my diagnostic. After that, as you start to get closer to your date, so maybe like 2 months out, like 8 to 10 weeks out from your test date, you want to start taking practice exams more frequently and really drilling questions, especially the ones that you struggle with. You want to write down the questions you missed, and you want to write down what it is about the question that you didn't understand or why you thought your answer was correct. And then when you find out what the correct answer is, why is that answer correct compared to your answer? It's a really, really, really stressful time, and I empathize with everyone who is studying for the Lsat because it is no small feat to be studying for this test. And to know that, you know, like your law school future essentially is riding on it, I don't think it's fair, but honestly, that's what it is. So if you need help, get it. I ended up hiring a tutor for the Lsat, and he was great. He helped me a lot because I was really struggling with logic games, and that was my worst section. I actually got logical reasoning and reading comprehension pretty well, but logic games I was really bad at. So that's actually another thing about this book, is great for logical reasoning and reading comprehension, especially reading comprehension. The thing that is not great about this book is that it's not good for logic games. So what you're going to want to do is get the Power Score Logic Games Bible, and that will help you and give you a good complement to the logic games foundations that are laid out in the Lsat trainer, and then pair that with any additional assistance that you need. But that's as far as I'm going to go into study materials and all of that with the Lsat. But yes, I took the Lsat for the first time in August of 2020, 2 months after graduating, and 2 weeks after starting a new job. So it is possible to study while you are in a new job. And then when I got my test results, I knew I was kind of nervous during that very first exam. I was super nervous actually during that very first exam, and I was just so stressed afterwards because I was like, oh my god, like I'm never gonna go to law school because I did terrible. And obviously that was not true because I'm going to law school now. I took it again in November or October. I want to say it was October, close to November. And my scores still weren't where I wanted them to be, but I knew at that point, because of how much more time I had to study and poured myself into, because I knew where my problem areas were, after taking that first exam, I put a lot more time into studying and focusing on the areas that I didn't know, or all of that. And so when I got my second exam results back, I just knew that that was it. Like, I'm not generally a good standardized test taker. I didn't do well on the SAT. I didn't do that good on the ACT and then the pre-SAT and the ACT plan. I didn't do well on those either. And those were practice exams. Every time I think of any standardized test I've taken in my life, I have not done well, ever. But that never determines my success. So, if you needed that reminder, standardized tests do not determine your success. They are the laziest way for admissions, and it's just easier. It's fine, like, it's totally fine. I didn't do well, and I'm still here. And even though I didn't do well, I knew how much heart and soul I poured into my application, which brings us to part number 2, the application. So, the application process. Apply early. Please, 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 if you do nothing else, apply early. And by apply early, the application cycle usually starts officially in September, when applications open up, and it ends depending on the school. Some schools, it technically ends in January for some schools, and for other schools all the way up until March or even later. I say apply early because law school admissions is rolling admissions. So whatever application they're receiving first, they're reading it right there and right then, and they're making a determination of whether automatically deny, automatically accept, waitlist, and then the I don't know pile. Either we're going to decide later or they just don't know. So apply early. And that means that they will have the time to actually comb through your application piece by piece and read your personal statement, read through your resume, read through your diversity statement. Just do all of that, right? Because you know the numbers, then please, please, please apply early. Speaking of, if you want to apply early, I will recommend that you start writing your personal statement over the summer. Your personal statement, you don't need the actual application to be open in order to start writing it. Why? Because it's just about you. And there's no, like, the prompts for all the schools in your personal statement is pretty much the same. They want to know a variety of different things, but mostly they want to know you. And so it's about you, which is a concept that a lot of us struggle with because we're so used to writing about a specific topic that's been assigned to us and never really truly writing about ourselves, and not in a biographical manner either. Like, this is your story, your time to say what you need to say that's going to make the admissions committee be like, I like this guy. And it's not a why law school essay either. So do not use your personal statement as a why law school. They don't want to see that. You incorporate your personal story to make it known that that's what led you into the law, but it's not a, well, I want to go to law school because this, and this. That's not your personal statement. I started writing my personal statement as soon as I was done taking the Lsat in August. So I think I took probably like a 1-day break after taking the Lsat, and then I started typing up my personal statement. I wrote up like a super crappy draft of what I wanted to say in 1 day, and then I read it and I was like, yeah, this is definitely not going to be the one to submit. That's not the topic I'm going to write about either. And then for 2 weeks I literally just sat at my desk and I just tapped my pen on my head, and I was just sitting there like staring at a blank screen like, what am I going to write about? And that is the hardest part about writing your personal statement, is picking a topic and trying to tie that into whatever it may be. We also ended up deciding to write a diversity statement. It's optional, but if you do have some type of diversity that you would be bringing to the community, I highly recommend that you write one. So yes, write your diversity statement. If you are bringing any type of diversity into the community that actually is significant and will contribute to classroom discussions and anything in a different way. As far as addenda, because you will see the option in the applications for addenda, I wrote a few addenda for a few different schools I was applying to, but it really truly depends on you. If you think it's going to add value to your application, do it. If you think it's not going to do anything, it's just going to be stagnant, don't do it. They don't want to have extra papers to read anyways, so if it's not valuable, then don't add it. Yeah, and especially if you are applying to top 14 schools, if you're applying to popular schools, then apply early. That's like my motto, apply early. Personally, after I started writing my personal statement and I finally got my topic down, I wrote my first draft, I edited it myself, then I sent out that second draft to a few different people for them to give me feedback, just initial feedback. And then while I was waiting for their feedback, I started typing my diversity statement, which took me about a week and a half to write the initial draft, because I was really, really trying to make sure that I was adding something that was valuable and I wasn't just being like, I'm a Black girl who's interested in the law. Like, yes, that is diversity because there's only 2% of us, but also it's something that is seen so many times and over and over and over and over again. And yeah, diversity statement took me about 3 weeks to complete, like from first draft to final draft, and edits and everything. That one was actually, it took shorter than my personal statement. My personal statement took about 6 weeks to complete, because when you get those edits back, you never know what someone else is going to say, because they have a lot more expertise about the admissions process than you do. So when you get it back, be prepared to make a lot of edits. When I got my first few edits back, I didn't have to make a lot of edits. When I got like my third round of edits back, I had to make a lot of changes, and it was all completely valid points. And I'm so happy that I decided to send my statements to multiple people at different areas. Like, one is my former professor who works as an attorney. Another one was an attorney I worked with. Another one was a current law student. So get like a diverse group of people to read your statements and who know what to look for and what's going to stand out about you. And I also recommend getting maybe like 2 people who know you and 2 people who don't know you, because they're going to be able to say, the people who know you are going to be able to say, yes, this is you. This is authentic to you. The people who don't know you are going to be able to tell you whether they learned anything about you from reading your paper. And that's what the admissions committee is going to want to know, is did they learn anything about you from reading your application? That's outside of, you know, basic demographic information. So yeah, after I completed all of the edits and everything, and I got my fee waivers and everything in order, I actually got delayed. I was supposed to apply in October, by October 15th, and I ended up applying in November, in the first few weeks of November. Because people, when you're waiting for them for edits, you gotta be on them, because they will take their sweet time to get back to you, and everyone is busy, so you need to give them a reasonable amount of time. And some people just forget. Like, the edited document could be sitting on their laptop, all they got to do is send it to you, and it's going to be like 2 weeks until they send it to you. So that's how I ended up getting delayed in my application date. But I finished all my applications, submitted them by November, which brings me to part 3, the waiting. Okay, candid moment, because when I was applying to college, I also applied early. Not that it mattered then, because it wasn't rolling admissions, but I also applied early, and waiting until like February, March, April even to get decisions back. Oh my God, it was torture. It was torture. This time around, I really wasn't that pressed. And this is why. I have done obviously a lot of growing since high school, and I know that whatever is meant for me will be for me, but also because there's nothing you can do at that point. Once your application is in, it's in, and it is in the hands of people who will make the decision, and you cannot do anything at that point. It's better to just leave it be. Let your application speak for itself, especially if you poured your heart and soul into it. So that's what I did. And I applied in November. In December, I heard back to school, which is pretty awesome. I was not expecting it. I was just sitting on the couch and it just happened. And I was like, I got it. Which brings me to part 4. Acceptances and rejections and waitlists. So getting accepted obviously is a really good feeling, and you're like, yes, like I did it. You know, despite everything, I did it. You just feel like you finally have some value placed on the work that you've been doing for months and months and months, which is great, and it's amazing. Rejections. I got like tons of rejections. I didn't get a lot of rejections, until later in the cycle, even though I applied early, because this year was one of the busiest, the most voluminous application cycles in history for every law school, to the point where even like lower tier law schools were having admissions issues. So, and their stats were like going up. So, of course, I applied in one of the most competitive cycles in law school history, because why not? And it was definitely very interesting. Let me just pause here and say this. It was definitely very interesting because back in September and October, before schools had received the bulk of their applications and they were still waiting, all of the deans were saying, you know, like the numbers are going to matter less this year. We're going to focus more on the substance of the application, you know, this, that, and the third. But when the number of applications came in, the numbers became increasingly more important, because that was what I think made their final decisions, because of how many applications there were. Like, it was crazy. Like, every single LSAC phone call, you would call the law school admissions council or committee, whatever it is, and you'd be on hold for like an hour, because that's how many people are calling them or need their help, because there's that many applicants, which is so crazy. Okay, so pause over. Back to getting rejections. Rejections are a good thing. They are a good thing. It means you weren't meant to go there, and it means it wasn't the place for you. And if later on you decide, actually, that was the place for me, you can always transfer. I got rejected from my top schools, my top. Oh, and let me just apologize for the last video. I know the quality was like boo-boo, and I apologize for that. I did not realize that in YouTube, in order for you to upload a 4K video, that you have to like change the settings and do it like a whole special different way, and it takes like hours and hours and hours for it to do it. So I apologize for that. This video will be better. And yeah, thank you for your patience with me. And make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. Wait, what? Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Thank y'all.